I recently attended the military's briefing after its year-long investigation into the June 8, 2022 Osprey crash that killed 5 Marines. The military determined that the crash was caused by a mechanical failure within the gearbox, but disclosed that they have not yet determined the cause. The families affected by this tragedy are speaking out about this troubling issue.
The Marine Corps now saying 5 Marines died in a crash of a military aircraft outside San Diego.
The crew was participating in a routine live fire training on Wednesday when their aircraft, an V-22 Osprey, went down.
Military firefighters went to try to help in that situation, but all 5 people on board were lost.
We've truly lost some heroes, some leaders from communities here in California and around the country.
My name is Amber Sachs. I am the surviving spouse of Captain John J. Sachs.
I'm Kelsie Hancock. I am the fiance of Captain Nick Lapio, who was the aircraft commander in Swift 11.
I'm Avery Rasmuson. I am the spouse of Seth Rasmuson, the crew chief that was on Swift 11.
John was the most inspirational and wonderful person I've ever met. But he specifically wanted to fly in the military. And he did just that. He accomplished his dream, he earned his wings, and he was just the most incredible person. John was the most incredible husband, the most incredible father, and seeing him become a father was one of the greatest gifts that I've ever been given. He was an extraordinary Marine. He loved being a Marine, and he put his full heart into everything he did, and to those around him. And this was something that he really believed in with his full heart.
Nick was an incredible human. He was larger than life. They coined him as a once-in-a-generation pilot. He was a mid-grade captain and was doing operations that far exceeded his rank and time in service. I think that was just a huge testament to how skilled and devoted he was to the organization and to the platform. He loved flying more than anything, and he did have aspirations to continue flying out of the Marine Corps, and we had aspirations to fly together, and so he was just an incredible human, and I'm so grateful to have played a small chapter in his life.
He has taught me so much about life. The one thing that's always stood out about Seth is how true to himself he was. He was very passionate about the aircraft, about flying, and he wanted to get his own pilot's license after he got out of the Marine Corps. He was so excited to become a dad, and he never really got the chance. He had 7 months to be a dad. They did an admirable job on picking apart the pieces that were left to find the issue that went wrong, and that is a tough job. They put in a lot of hours, a lot of days and nights to figure out what happened. The one question I definitely would like to ask them is why Bell-Boeing's name is not in the investigation report. I've read it cover to cover several times, and there's not one thing in there that says anything about Bell-Boeing. I would like to know from the investigator's point of view where Bell-Boeing has a role in this. We know what happened, we know how it happened, but we don't know why. And the why is what we were there for. It was why we were flown all the way across the country and waited 14 months to hear, and yet we still don't know. What stood out most is not knowing, and them not knowing the why.
Given the state of the aircraft and the flight data recorders and the lack of witnesses, the lack of video evidence, I know that they had a very difficult task to figure out what happened. I am eternally grateful that they got us the answers that they did and that they didn't give up. However, Bell-Boeing was not mentioned at all in the investigation. We didn't have experts at Bell-Boeing present when the families were briefed, so a lot of our questions couldn't be answered. And when I've asked for a contact with Bell-Boeing to get those questions answered, I haven't received a response.
It is not easy when you have such a catastrophic failure and remains of an aircraft to dissect and figure out what happened. I think going into the command investigation brief, we had a sort of an expectation of what we were going to hear. There was a level of reprieve that we all felt, knowing that there was no pilot error in this entire process. And so knowing that the human factor was removed from initial concerns, I think was very nice to hear, and they started off the brief that way. But I think we all wanted to know why it happened. You know, we got the what, and I think we appreciated the what, but why did this happen? And if we knew that there were issues with hard clutch engagement from years past, why wasn't it resolved? So the next step is really why, and how do we prevent this? And so that would be my biggest question.
Given the track record, they knew about hard clutch engagement since 2010. And in 2017, there was an incident with a CV-22 called Pyro 76. After Pyro 76, it appeared that they started doing an input quill redesign, but unfortunately, it didn't pass its tests in 2020. And at that point, I'm not sure what happened. Here we were in 2022. And the very thing that they were aware of a possible problem with this aircraft caused the death of 5 Marines. So do I feel confident? I wish I felt more confident. I wish our friends that are still flying these felt more confident. I wish their spouses, their fiancés, their children, I wish they felt more confident. And that's exactly why we're here today.
What stood out to me the most is the mention that this was an unprecedented mishap, meaning we had no idea that something like this could have happened, or we've never seen something like this before. And maybe to the extent of how catastrophic and all of the things that happened at once with the aircraft, but it's not entirely true. I mean, we have seen hard clutch engagement, we have seen input quill issues, we have seen gearbox issues, maybe not to this level of catastrophe, but it was almost misleading. And I think that's what stood out to me the most about the brief, is that it was not unprecedented. I don't think it was unprecedented. I think they've known about some things for a while, and even if there have been strides to make fixes or advancements or address safety concerns, they did, and then there was no resolution, and then it almost seemed like there was kind of a, well, oh well. That's the perception.
There was a failure at some point. It was a system failed. We want to know. Bell-Boeing, one of the most incredible engineering companies, I have a hard time believing they couldn't conceptualize that a dual hard clutch engagement with an ICDS failure was possible. I have a very hard time believing they couldn't even come up with the concept, even if their labs couldn't simulate it. They have to answer to that. Did they know this was possible? And why didn't they do more to prevent it?
We need to take a very logical approach to the facts. What are the facts? We have seen a trend in hard clutch engagement since 2010, and there seemingly has been no fix. And so those are the things that we need to revisit and really run the numbers. Like, this could happen again because you did not provide a solution. So you said that there's a 99% fix for this, but is there, I don't know. I think what we would like to see is we're taking accountability. This is what happened, this is why it happened, and this is what we're doing to fix it, and we're very sorry. We will not let this happen again.
It would be huge for us to be able to speak to Congress about these issues. Safety is top priority. It should be top priority for our Marines. It's a shame it's taken so long for them to try to find a fix for these issues, and there still is not a fix. I have a son, that might be inspired to follow in his dad's footsteps. I want his aircraft to be safer than it was for my husband if he ever wants to follow in his dad's footsteps, because it's a huge platform and so many people are dedicating so much of their time and effort and days and nights on this aircraft, and that safety of them should be put first, and it's not.
I've personally written to 2 local congressmen, and we understand there are inherent risks with this job, and there's risks with aviation, but they need to be doing everything possible to keep our service members safe so that they can trust that they're as safe as possible while they're defending our country and while their families are waiting for them to come home.
I think to have that kind of audience, I think that we can really have a huge impact. They need to be having those hard conversations. I don't know if it's a budget issue. I don't know if it's a resource issue, but being able to really talk to Congress about how our friends and family are still flying these aircraft, and they're are unresolved issues that we know, being a part of the military community, and the perception is that there are things that have fallen through the cracks. There are obviously risks that we take in the military, and they're necessary risks, specifically in combat situations. There are things that you have to do, even if it could cost loss of life or equipment. But those are kind of a given, and we assume that when we're in a combat situation. But when we're in routine, everyday training, there needs to be a baseline and a standard that is held true. I'm so proud to be a part of this community. It's been my life for the past, 5 years now. I started dating Nick when I was 25 years old. So it's near and dear to my heart, and there are people who really can't speak up. But we can, and we're trying to do it in the most logical, respectful, wise way.
The V-22 community is so important to me and my family. We're there for the whole community, and I always will be. So my son loves seeing the Ospreys fly over my house. He associates the Osprey with his dad, and it's just such a legacy that I want to keep seeing them fly in the skies.
The military community, the Marine community, and the Osprey community became a second family to John and I. We have so many friends in this community that we love so dearly. I understand that our friends that are still serving cannot necessarily speak for themselves on this. Their families also cannot necessarily speak up, and we're in a very unique position because I'm no longer an active duty spouse. I can use my voice. I have the ability to speak up on this, and I'm not going to stop speaking up on this until someone with Bell-Boeing can look me in the eye and say, "We fixed it. We figured this out. This isn't going to happen to anyone else." And that's really what we're looking for.
I just want to make mention of Emily Baxter. She is the surviving spouse of Corporal Nathan Carlson. We are very much aligned, and we stand together in our feelings and thoughts, and we really wish she could be here, but we're very grateful to be able to represent her.